and welcome to the Fightful Boxing Podcast. Today, June 15th, 2017. The one, the only, Stephen Muehlhausen. Stephen, it's been a couple of weeks, and boy, it's really not a lot of stuff happened in boxing in these last couple of weeks. I don't know about you, not a lot of stuff happened.
A lot of stuff didn't happen until we plan on talking about one thing.
A small fight. Well, maybe a couple of small fights there.
We plan on talking about Sergey Kovalev, and that would take up probably about half of this, maybe 20 minutes of this podcast. But man, there's some news that broke yesterday. Man, I'm kind of trying to scratch my head. Oh, I remember now. Floyd Mayweather is facing Conor McGregor August the 26th. T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Fights at 154 pounds. They will be wearing 10-ounce gloves. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, and I've already gotten this question, even though they've already made it clear, abundantly clear. I will say it again for about the 100th time. In the last about 16 hours, it is a boxing match. It will be 12 rounds. So I think we can all put that away and let everyone resonate with that. But our worst dream, at least I know my worst dream.
Your worst dream. I don't know about you. I don't know about myself, but this is your worst. You're the one that's been saying this is your worst dream.
It is just because now I just remember Mayweather Pacquiao. And I remember the 10 weeks that journey was. And now I'm on another 10-week journey of this. And then I'll be expediting to Las Vegas. And then, like I was there in Vegas for Mayweather Pacquiao. So now I got to once again get on an airplane and head to Las Vegas for a circus. So that's why I'm not looking forward to it. Because I've already consumed enough of this since the beginning of, since like late last year. We've been talking about it very often on the Fightful.com boxing podcast. So now we get a lot more of it. This is what you're going to get, ladies and gentlemen, for the majority of the next. Now we got 72 days until this mega fight happens. Yes, it's a mega fight. So expect a lot of articles on Fightful.com. A lot on our MMA and boxing podcast. We'll be talking about this. I would virtually guarantee you that this is going to dominate a lot of the time. And so get used to it and enjoy the ride. Because I think at the end of the day, Carlos, this is going to be pretty awesome. Regardless of what happens in the fight, and I think we will talk about it in a minute, but it's going to be a very fun journey. This is going to be more fun than Mayweather Pacquiao.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun journey. Before we delve into this and talk about the conference call with Stephen Espinosa, Leonard Ellerbe, and Dana White, I have a little bit of a surprise for you.
You know what? I like surprises.
So for those of you that have been following the video version of the boxing podcast, they've noticed that I've had bleached hair because of Puerto Rican baseball. Yeah, Steven, you're getting it.
You no longer look like Justin Bieber. You look like you no longer look like a 12-year-old boy. You've now graduated to an 18-year-old man. Congratulations. You look great, by the way. You look great, man. You look great. Look, you're no longer a boy. You're now a man. It's like you hit your bar mitzvah. You're a bar mitzvah. This is our bar mitzvah today, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I said it. A bar mitzvah. Carlos Toro, we're celebrating you, my friend. This whole podcast is dedicated to you today.
So really quickly, for those of you listening to the audio version, I've had blonde hair for the past 2.5 months or so. And in the 2 weeks that between the last podcast and this one, I cut it off because my natural hair color was growing back. And I thought, you know what, now's the time to get rid of it. So, yep. So, and I know how much Steven wanted this to happen. For this to happen. Now the Justin Bieber jokes can end.
For now. for now. But no, man, this is a good way to start, man. I'm excited. You finally did the hair. Fantastic. No, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. But let's talk about the conference call. And what were your thoughts on the conference call? Because I have plenty to say about the 40 minutes. Well, first they were about a half hour late. We'll get started with that. But your thoughts just on about 37 minutes. It was around 37 minutes. What were your thoughts on the conference call yesterday evening?
So one thing, and this is something that I thought was smart on all three guys' part at the start of the conference call, was they not only built up the fight, because the fight didn't really need to be built up that much to generate this amount of hype. Look at all the hype that's been generated already. But the way they have built up Conor's chances of doing damage to Floyd Mayweather. I mean, it wasn't just Dana. Leonard Ellerbe, who's the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, he was talking McGregor up a lot. They were talking about how, he's strong his punches are. I mean, his stamina, that he's capable of going 5 UFC rounds and still come out not fresh, but still, in really good condition. They've looked, Conor's fight at that kind of weight class. One thing that I thought that was really interesting that Dana was talking about when you mentioned Mayweather Pacquiao, they mentioned that, and they said that Dana said there was a lot of problems with that event, especially with the ticket information. He got 10 tickets for that fight. And they said that they're going to learn a lot from this. I hope they learn a lot from the Mayweather Pacquiao, because all in all, the spectacle was great. All the hype that was generated, but the fight itself was pretty boring. The event was marred by so many logistical problems. I mean, there was so many showing the pay-per-view in so many different places. Like over there in New Jersey, there were dozens of restaurants that were showing the pay-per-view where the pay-per-view just crashed and they couldn't watch it, and a lot of people were cheated out of $100. So I have a sneaking suspicion Ellerbe, Espinosa, and Dana White are gonna really double down on that, especially on the pay-per-view showing.
Now, there were a lot of issues with it, and you're 110% correct. A lot of the issues, Carlos, were due to the fight wasn't even signed. And take this, for all the I's and all the T's were not even crossed until a week before the fight. Think about that. The fight was going to happen, but then there was I remember there was a day or two within about 10 to 14 days before the fight. And there was a little bit of a rumble. The fight was going to be off due to this. It's like, what is taking so long? Mayweather and Pacquiao signed the contract to fight, but there was a whole bunch of other things that had to be signed and agreed to, and it was a complete mess. And Dana was right when he said that yesterday. And it's shocking. It wasn't a shock, because that was a fight people wanted to see. It was 6 years in the making. So you had to look at it. You knew it was going to draw big, and it drew huge, bigger than anyone ever imagined. And this time is different, though, and this is why. Dana White's going to make sure every I and every T is crossed. Dana White's a lot, and this is no knock on Bob Arum and Leonard Ellerbe, but they had never staged an event like that. I think it was a little bit too big. You know, Bob Arum's done a ton of fights, but that was at a different time, and we're in a new age where interest is higher than it was in the 70s. It was higher bigger in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. That was a whole other ball of wax. Dana White's been here. He's done big fights. This is nothing new to Dana White. He knows what he's doing. And you can see by the call, as Dana dominated a lot of the call, Dana White knows how to hype fights. Dana White's a promoter. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he made sure every I and every T was crossed here. Yeah, they still got to do like what ticket prices and what the pay-per-view price in a press conference, and maybe a little mini tour, because I've been hearing some rumblings about a tour, like a 2 or 3 city tour. But this is a big deal, and Dana White's going to be very meticulous. And I think Leonard Ellerbe learned a lot here, because that was even something new for Leonard. It really was. And Floyd had been in some big fights. They had Canelo and De La Hoya, but De La Hoya and his team took care of a lot of that stuff. This is a whole new deal for Leonard Ellerbe, and I think Leonard learned a lot from that. And I think Leonard learned a lot, and I think he's going to use that. And I think he's going to use it to his advantage. Now he knows the mistakes not to make. And you're dealing with a shark. Dana White, at the end of the day, is a shark. But he is also, regardless of what we want to say about Dana White's a great promoter. We won't have ticket issues. I can guarantee. I don't put a lot of guarantees on many things in life, but I can guarantee there will not be a ticket issue. There will not be. Everything will be signed. The fighters have signed. The distribution deal is signed. Now it's just taking care of the sponsors and a little meticulous stuff. Ticket prices. That can be agreed upon, I think, within the next 72 hours. We'll hear something about a presser within the next 5 to 7 days. I'll be shocked if we don't hear nothing by the end of. I wouldn't be shocked by the end of tomorrow. Maybe at the very worst, I think Monday. So all those little things and issues before will not be an issue this time around. So everyone can relax. You'll get your tickets.
Yeah, sure. If you have maybe $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 lying around and a trip to Las Vegas, sure.
I don't plan on that happening. It's going to be a lot of money. I know people that already were, because this basically how this timeline went for people, because I've been getting a lot of this, and we'll explain this right now. This all started, the rumbling started last year. They didn't start talking seriously about this, though. It would be like each fighter would bring it up. Conversations didn't start till January. And we talked about this a while ago, but some people may have forgotten and may not have looked back in the archives of the Fightful.com boxing podcast. This started back in January. Dana White had his first conversation with Al Heyman. And Dana realized, man, this was actually kind of easy. Because you had both parties get it, Carlos. There's going to be a lot of money made here. And we'll get into all the financial stuff in a little while. But negotiations started then, but with a fight of this magnitude, it's going to take time, and that's what people don't understand. Because they deal with weight, the glove issue, how it was going to air in terms of distribution, drug testing. A lot of that stuff takes time, and a date. A lot of people think this is all done in like 5 minutes. It's not. There was a little haggling on both sides, and Conor and the UFC had to agree to a deal, and that took a little bit, and then we got to this point. About a month ago, it was just about done. It was the date. Only thing they couldn't agree on was the date, because they planned for September 16th. They really didn't think about Triple G and Canelo. We'll get into that as well in a little while, but this all really started taking shape in January. So that's kind of the lowdown, and then we had what happened. They pulled August 26th, and this was the genius of Floyd Mayweather. He had the world pretty pissed off. I'm pulling the date back. That was great. Pure genius. And then they called Bob Bennett and the Nevada Athletic Commission. They wanted the date back on. Bob said, not a problem. It's something we can go right back on the agenda. At yesterday's meeting happened. And then I heard about 1 Eastern that it was signed. I'm like, oh man, why couldn't we do this on a Friday? Mayweather likes doing stuff on Friday. So that's what I was really hoping for. I'm like, man, okay, Friday will be great. I don't have to do as much. We can really filter over to the weekend. And then they're like, no, and then I saw a report by Yahoo and gave Kevin Aioli a lot of props from Yahoo Sports. Broke the story. Great job by Kevin. Kevin's one of the best in the business. So definitely I don't plug other sites, but Kevin is a good friend of mine. So props to Kevin Aioli at Yahoo Sports. And then I did some work. And I love telling this story because I think it's great. And I said this in some radio interviews last night. I was eating a chopped salad. I had a piece of chicken in my mouth. Because I had called some people and no one was calling me back. So I'm like, I'm just going to eat dinner. Mayweather's PR lady called and she's like, yep. She's like, Floyd's about to put it on social media. And I'm like, I just chuckled. And then she's like, well, I'll see you in 10 weeks. I'm like, well, what about the press? She's like, well, I'll see you sooner then. I'm like, all right. And I just looked at my wife and I'm like, looks like August 20. I'm leaving around August 22nd. She's like, why? And I told her. She's like, she just didn't understand. She's a woman. And she's about, no, I don't mean that I'm going to get blasted for this. I'm sorry, ladies. She just didn't understand because she didn't understand the significance of it. And once I explained it, she did. So that's kind of really how this all really happened. And do you know anything else I don't know, or are you just learning this firsthand as well? Because I don't know how much you know, because we haven't talked too much.
Well, as far as their promotional, I know it's going to be, as they mentioned in the conference call which I was listening to live. Within the 7 days, they're going to announce that. I would imagine that they're going to have to go a tour for all the big cities. I would imagine New York is probably going to be one of the first stops on that press tour, and they're going to be spending a lot of time in the next month. -1_209 on our live chat was saying, "What's up, guys? Not sure if you touch on this, but do you think this date is too soon for McGregor prep wise?"
I want to get in. We'll get into that in a minute. What was his name again?
-1_209.
Man, he sounds like just a negative guy. If that's like your name, screen name, brother. Come on. Be positive, man. This is a positive thing. Or how do I gotta change that name? Put positive and then the numbers, amigo. But you talk about a tour, you gotta figure they're gonna go to Dublin. I think that's going to be imperative. I think that's something Conor McGregor is really going to insist. I think he has, and I would imagine he's already insisted on. You would think Dublin, New York, Vegas, probably LA, maybe Chicago. I think the whole thing is they're going to hit. I think the major Irish, if they're going to do a big press tour. I don't know yet. I've been on the phones already this morning trying to see, hey, what's going on here in terms of this. And late last night, and no one has an answer. No one's gotten back to me. If I'm running this, I'm hitting Dublin. You do guarantees Dublin, New York, Los Angeles. But then what you have to do is you have to hit those Irish markets. Boston, Chicago. You really have to, those are two hotbeds. And I'm not saying this, I'm here. It's because I know Mick Conlon just fought here and sold about 4,000 tickets. All full of rabid Irish fans. So you have to remember that. So I think if they hit those bases, and maybe they'll hit Miami, maybe they'll do Vegas, but I can see they're going to knock that. I think they can knock that out in about 10 days. I really do. They can do this really quick. So, but I think if they do it, they may just do New York, LA, and New York and Dublin and call it a day. They may just do LA and Dublin. Maybe they do 3 cities. Maybe it's just New York, LA, and Dublin. I don't know. But I think Dublin will probably, I would imagine Dublin will have to be a part of it, just because like it was for the World Tour with Aldo and McGregor. So, but no, back to that question. I want to say yeah, because it is too soon, but you have to remember here, the date they wanted was September 16th. I prefer, because I kept hearing November 11th. And it was a date I kept hearing, because the UFC is they're returning to the Madison Square Garden on November 4th. So that was, as soon as that was announced, I'm like, okay, maybe, just kind of looking at the calendar. Maybe you can go like the end of January. Maybe you could have waited till next May. Imagine that. That's kind of something I actually thought about and I thought would have made a lot of sense. But I have no problem with August 26th. August is a good time for pay-per-views. There's really nothing in July. You got July 29th with Jones and Cormier. You got Adrian Broner and Mikey Garcia. But then you have like a little bit of a lull in between there. So is it too soon? Probably. But you know what, though? It makes sense. You got about 10 weeks. And McGregor, it's not like McGregor just started training. Conor McGregor has been training for this for about a year now. So I think Conor's right. He's going to be as ready as he's going to be. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, Conor's not a guy who slouches around. I mean, yeah, he was taking a break after the Eddie Alvarez fight for the birth of his kid, which, by the way, congrats to him, which I believe he was born like last month or so, if I'm.
That's correct. Yeah.
But yeah, listen, Conor's a guy. Listen, they were saying on the conference call, Dana White was saying, Conor's already in Ireland training with guys, and you know. He's going to be he's going to be, as you mentioned, as ready as he can possibly be for this fight. He's going to come in aggressive, just as he's always been, just as he was against Eddie Alvarez. He's going to come out swinging. He's a guy who really, his cardio, after the second Nate Diaz fight, I don't think his cardio should be questioned at all, because these are shorter rounds, and he can certainly get rest in between rounds. 3 rounds is a lot different than 5 rounds in the UFC. And listen, and Floyd's not a guy who's going to throw a million. He's not a 1,000-punch thrower like when you're talking about like a David Lemieux or a Gennady Golovkin. He's not that type of guy. So I think when you're looking at the semantics of the fight itself, and one thing that I thought was really interesting, they were talking so much about Conor's chances in the conference call, and Dana White was really pushing the whole Floyd struggles against southpaws angle, especially like early on, like right from the get-go. Really, I can't possibly see Floyd knocking out Conor in like 90 seconds, kind of like or anything like that. I don't see that happening. It might if Conor's boxing stance is really bad and Floyd sees an opportunity, but really, you're talking about a 40-year-old who hasn't knocked out anybody legitimately since Ricky Hatton about a decade ago. His hands, in the last maybe 6-7 years of his career, we've noticed that Floyd's hands have gotten really brittle, and he even needed, if I remember correctly, his gloves needed, special padding to protect him, to make sure his hands don't get broken. And really, there's a lot of, the power really won't be there. But his speed and technical prowess and defensive skills are, I would expect we're going to see the same old Floyd Mayweather. Because I don't think Floyd's not a guy who's been slouching around since he beat Andre Berto. I can believe that he's been in the gym and getting himself mentally ready for this fight. I don't know how you see the boxing aspect of this fight going along.
It's not going to end in 90 seconds. Let's just be realistic about it. We'll kibosh that right out the window. And when I talked to Mick Conlon made me, but when we have the interview, we have the video in an article up on Fightful about this, and he telling us that he was going to be working with McGregor and helping him, and not sparring with him, and being in the gym with him and giving him pointers and so on and so forth. He's going to come in prepared. He's not going to have the white stance like he does in MMA. He's not that stupid. And he's bringing in boxing people. Everyone thinks, well, John Kavanaugh is going to be the lead trainer, but they're bringing in a lot of boxing people for this. Mick Conlon's just one of them. So everyone needs to relax on that aspect. You got to remember, we have to remember, and you're talking that symmetrics and as Floyd Mayweather is 40 years old. He hasn't everyone can say, well, he didn't knock out Victor Ortiz. Was it a cheap shot? Yeah. And legal? Yes. Dirty? You're damn right. We'll call that what it is. But he legitimately hasn't knocked anyone out since Ricky Hatton in 2007. we call it like we say. And Ricky Hatton was on top of his game. So this wasn't like a shot fighter who he knocked out. Ricky Hatton was a legit fighter who was undefeated and power in both hands. So Ricky Hatton was no joke at that time. So I give Floyd a lot of credit for that. I don't give Floyd a lot of credit for a lot of things, but that was definitely one of them, especially taking that fight 3 months later when he had no reason to even take that fight on such a short amount of time. So I give Floyd a lot of credit for that. But we do have to remember, Floyd Mayweather is 40 years old. He's had some problems with southpaws. Look at the issues he had early on with Zab Judah. Yeah, he ended up winning the fight pretty easily. But for the first 7-8 rounds of the fight, I want people to rewatch that fight. It's on YouTube. Mayweather had some problems. And even early on, he had some problems with Manny. And a lot of people don't really talk about that either. The first 5 rounds of the fight before the injury happened to Manny, he was giving Floyd a little bit of a problem as well. So he was giving Floyd some troubles. So Mayweather has had trouble with left-handers, with southpaws. You have a scenario, Carlos, of where Floyd Mayweather is 40 years old. By the time he steps into the ring, it'll be 3 weeks short of 2 years of being in the ring. Of course he is. He's been lightly sparring different guys, and he's running, and he's doing it. But you're talking 40 years old. Father Time kicks everybody's ass at the end of the day. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at Muhammad Ali. Look at Willie Mays. They all got defeated by Father Time. Father Time does come back and win, and he will kick your ass at the end of the day. Does Father Time strike Floyd Mayweather on August the 26th? I don't know. That's something we will find out then. But I want everyone to remember, Father Time, regardless of Conor McGregor's never had a fight, doesn't matter. Yes, he's 21-3. Yes, 18 of those wins have been by knockout. 7 of those 9 have been, including 7 of his 9 wins in the UFC. But this is boxing. 10-ounce gloves. No one's really talking about that. The 10-ounce glove factor. But Floyd Mayweather is 40 years old. He's had some difficulty with southpaws. This is why it makes it exciting, because it's the unknown. It's what we don't know. We think we know. And the fans think they know. But we really don't. We really don't know. We will find out August 26th, live and only on pay-per-view from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Sorry for that. It was being so long. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. I would definitely not want to hear more about the expertise from Steve Muehlhausen. No, I will deprive of the fans listening on that.
No. I am no expert.
So here's the one thing that's been discussed about this fight and this event. It's going to be an all-boxing fight. All-boxing card. Mayweather Promotions is running the undercard. You got to imagine. They really have not mentioned anybody, but there's a lot of guys that said they want to be on that undercard. Mm-hmm. And I think you have a really good opportunity if you're you can really stack this card with a lot of really good guys. I mean, you can have Gervonta Davis be the co-main event defending his title, his IBF title, and he looked great against Liam Walsh. And first of all, I don't think I had forgotten about the fact that I was the one that said Gervonta Davis is gonna win.
Yeah.
I believe in Gervonta.
Yeah. You're doing okay, kid. You're doing okay. Doing okay for yourself.
You can definitely have Botto. And I wanted to see if this is an interesting fight. You can have Botto Jack make his light heavyweight debut on that card. Joe Smith Jr. doesn't get a world title shot in his next fight. I can see, why not Joe Smith Jr. versus Botto Jack? That's an attractive light heavyweight fight. And listen, we don't know anything about who Botto Jack's gonna fight. He's been saying months after the James DeGale fight. I'm going to light heavyweight, the super middleweight division. I don't care about it anymore. Can't make weight. Judges are against me. I'm going to 175.
But I agree with those options, by the way. I think it's going to be Gervonta Davis. I think it's going to be Badu Jack. I think it's going to be, because those are the guys Mayweather's really pushing. And I think he would, I'll put it this way. It would be very dumb of Floyd Mayweather not to have both of those guys on the card. And I think Floyd is smart enough, and Leonard Ellerbe, they're smart enough guys to be like, okay, let's put them on. Because I think it gives them worldwide exposure. This undercard will be better than Mayweather and Pacquiao. I guarantee that. The Joe Smith scenario, I think, is a little premature just because Joe Smith is fighting on July 15th. So I don't know if Joe Smith, unless Joe Smith wins in like 90 seconds. You know, I think if he knocks out, I forget who he's facing. Solomon Barrera, I think who he's facing on July 15th. If he knocks him out quickly, then I can see that. And I'm talking to Joe Smith later today. So that'll be a question I have for Joe Smith. Would that be something that, would you be interested in? So, but no, I agree with you on that, though. I think if they go, do you go a 3-fight undercard? Because you're really wanting to build this up kind of from what it seems like. I don't know if it was a bunch of smoke and mirrors, but do you go 2 fights in Mayweather McGregor, or do you add another fight in there?
Before I answer that question, how am I sounding? Because there's a few guys on the live chat saying I'm sounding a little bit robotic.
You're in and out a little bit. We can keep rolling. We're good. But
I'll say, you know what? 2. I think they'll do 3 fights on the pay-per-view card, and then Mayweather McGregor. Because let's face it, Mayweather McGregor has the potential to be either a 12 round, could go all the distance if you really think about it, or it could even last 3 rounds. I think they want to get their money's worth and get 3 fights in. I think that's starting to be the norm on boxing pay-per-views.
No, it definitely is, and I can go with the 3-fight assessment. I think you go 3 fights in it just because it does make more sense if you go that route, because you got to give these are your two biggest stars, and you want to go with your 2 biggest stars. At the end of the day, you have to go that route. It makes the most sense. So I think it's very smart if they go 3 fights and then you go there, because you want this to start around 11:30 Eastern. You want to let it marinate a little bit, the fans inside the arena, you want to let them get excited. And get into even just the arena talk. You look at, I'm a little shocked. I'm pretty surprised they're holding this in the T-Mobile Arena. The fact this is going into T-Mobile Arena, I think, is a very big deal, because you're talking about an arena with 20,000 tickets compared to the MGM Grand, where you're having a little bit over 16,000, and I think you can control the ticket. I think you can control the ticket prices better. I think, because now you have to think about, in terms of ticket pricing, you now have to deduct and think about the average consumer, who I think they should be thinking about to begin with. But I think having it at T-Mobile, in terms for the fans, I think really helps. Because now and that was the complaint about Mayweather Pacquiao, you couldn't get the average fan in there. Now, due to that, you add them in, where before, listen to the audio version of the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, that they wouldn't be able, they were priced out. Now they're priced back in a little bit. I think that whole upper bowl is going to be very beneficial to the fans. That lower bowl is going to be jacked up, and it's going to be jacked up like no one's business. And let's remember that as well. So I think they're sacrificing a little bit of money here, but I think they're really banking on more sponsorship money exposure, more sponsorship money, and right around the same pay-per-view sales for Mayweather and Pacquiao. So it's an interesting choice. It's a choice I would not have gone with if you're looking at just terms of maximizing dollars and cents. And at the end of the day, Carlos, this is about dollars and cents, regardless of what anyone wants to say. So I think it's intriguing, and I think it's a good I'm intrigued at what the ticket prices are going to be. I think the upper bowl is going to be good for the fans in the fact that it's at T-Mobile Arena. And I think the lower bowl is going to be outrageously jacked up to the gills. So I think they're expecting more money in different places, and I think that's where they expect to make it up. So I think having it at T-Mobile Arena is a huge win for the fans. It really is.
All right, I'm back now. How am I sounding? Any better?
You sound amazing. You sound as beautiful as a baby's bottom.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll let the live chat. I'll let the live chat be the judge of that. Yeah. A couple of questions here on the chat. So, is the UFC getting any cut from this fight, and who is sponsoring this fight?
Yes. The UFC is getting a cut. How much? I do not know. But I do have it on very good authority that they are getting a cut. So that is true. Showtime is distributing the pay-per-view. The UFC is going to be doing different things in this fight. They're going to be doing an embedded series that they do, which I think is very cool. It's kind of like a little I'm a fan. I think it's like a mini 20 episode of 24/7 or a mini Showtime All Access. I think these embedded episodes that they do before the pay-per-views, I think, are great. And they get a lot of viewership, and this is gonna blow away. And this is going. I think we're gonna get, from what I've been told already, they're looking at it right around a 10. They're gonna start, if they do a press tour, they'll start to do some episodes there. I'm told it'll be an embedded for the presser. So the UFC is gonna be involved in a lot of different things. And I want to talk about the commentating. And this was shocking. And this blew my mind away pretty early when it was brought up about commentary. Because they brought up Moro and Bernstein and Malignaggi, and would any of the UFC people be involved in that? And Espinoza didn't slam it down, which I thought was very shocking. And Moro didn't seem too happy about that, looking on social media. And I reached out to Moro. He didn't get back. He didn't want to talk about it. But he wasn't too happy. And now, if you're the commentary here and you're Showtime, could you really add someone from the UFC here, Carlos? Because I would say not a prayer.
No, but here's the thing. Moro just signed on to do Bellator, and I don't know how Dana would like having a Bellator guy, even though he's doing this for boxing and he's been Showtime's play-by-play guy for a very long time now. I don't know. I don't think Dana would very much would like having a Bellator guy calling a major boxing event with his UFC guy in there. I don't know.
But not to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off. But what if it was a straight Showtime, the regular Showtime broadcasting? Do you think that would be an issue then?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't think it would be that much of an issue. I think really, in the end of the day, Showtime producing it, so I think Showtime is and should be calling the shots as to who's going to be on commentary. I don't think it would be bad if you sprinkle in maybe and listen, and I'm not a fan of like 3-4 man broadcast teams, but in this case I'm willing to make an exception. That you have your Al Bernstein, Mauro Ranallo, and your Paulie Malignaggi, and maybe put in either John Anik or Joe Rogan to sort of, just to have a UFC guy talk about McGregor, even though Mauro is more than capable of talking about Conor McGregor on his own. But I think maybe just for just to sort of keep bringing on that boxing versus MMA crossover, and for the spectacle, you're making this like a once-in-a-lifetime type of deal. Maybe they'll probably do a 4-man team with the 3 usual Showtime guys and either John Anik or Joe Rogan.
I think they would go with Joe Rogan. I think that would be. I reached out to John Anik yesterday because I was thinking about this after the call, and he said he hasn't been told anything. So and I think I think Rogan would be the better play. But now, if you're Morrow, and we'll leave this on, we'll get out of the Morrow topic after this. Did Morrow shoot himself in the foot here? Because Morrow had to have an idea of this happening. I imagine Morrow had some kind of heads up. Did Morrow shoot himself in the foot here by signing a deal with Bellator, knowing that this was likely, that it was pretty likely, and he could have waited another couple months before he signed with the promotion? I think he shoots himself in the foot here. I love Morrow. I respect. Morrow Ronaldo is the best combat sports commentator in the sport. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's even in pro wrestling. I think it's JR and then Morrow. So, but I think here Morrow really shot himself in the foot, and I think he cost himself some money here by doing this. I really do. This is something I think he could have waited on, and I think he really hurt himself here. And I think that's going to be unfortunate because the best combat sports commentator should be announcing a spectacle, a big spectacle as this is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that he didn't shoot himself in the foot. And listen, and I love Mauro Ronaldo. I think he is an unbelievable, a once-in-a-generation type of announcer. I mean, you listen to him doing anything, MMA, kickboxing, wrestling when he was on SmackDown, listening to the early portion before he got micromanaged so much by Vince and all the other producers. He was fantastic. He made SmackDown Live a really good show just from his commentary alone. And and I think he's going to do great in Bellator. I have no doubt about that. But I don't know.
I think he better.
It's one of those things that Bellator really wanted him, because I have not read too much into this contract. He's doing the MSG show Bellator is doing. So I think they mainly be Morrow is risking himself, but I thought, you know what? I'm still Showtime's boxing guy. I'm willing to risk that for the opportunity to get a UFC gig and do this historic Bellator card from MSG.
Well, he's doing multiple events, a multi-event agreement throughout 2017 and next year. So it's about an 18-month agreement that they're on. I just don't know. I think he's going to regret this one. I just have like this, just the way Steven Espinoza said it yesterday. I hope I'm dead wrong. I really do, because I think Morrow should be doing this fight. I really, 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 really do. Because I think you need someone of his caliber calling something of this magnitude. Let's hope he does. Let's hope. I know Dana and Morrow have clashed in the past, so let's hope they put that aside and, we can get Morrow. I have no problem with Al Bernstein. He's phenomenal. I like Paulie Malignaggi. I think he's a really good analyst. I think he's a lot of pro Floyd, as they say. I think he really slights the narrative in Floyd's favor pretty heavily. But I do think at the end of the day, I'm 50-50 on whether Morrow is going to be there, and I think that's unfortunate. But we'll find that out, I think, very soon. I put in an inquiry to Steven Espinoza to have a conversation, so we'll see what happens with that. So that's one of the things I really want to know. I think that's a hot button issue, especially with Morrow not being too hot about it on Twitter. But now, an aspect a lot of people aren't talking about, and no one brought up on the conference call yesterday, how this really hurts Canelo and Triple G. And I think we should end with this, and then we can move on to Ward and Kovalev, because But this is a big aspect just because the fight is happening 3 weeks before Triple G and Canelo. Do you think, and we'll start with this, do you think it hurts Canelo and Triple G?
Absolutely. I think it really does because everybody's gonna listen. I don't mean to disrespect. I'm pretty sure the hardcore boxing fans are gonna be paying equal attention to this spectacle and Triple G Canelo. But the casual boxing fans, the mainstream audience, they're going to gravitate towards Conor versus Floyd because as great as this Triple G Canelo fight's going to be, there's nothing like Conor versus Floyd. There really isn't. And I think it's going to definitely hurt pay-per-view sales. Because if you really think about it, this has been a really big year for, pay-per-views in boxing and UFC. UFC putting out a lot of shows. So, and I would imagine that a lot of MMA fans that are going to be interested in this Conor versus Floyd fight might be thinking, you know what? I might be wanting to check out the Triple G Canelo fight. But the fact remains is that Conor versus Floyd is probably going to be $100 to buy. Now you're expecting a lot of that same boxing audience to shell out another $60, maybe $70 for Triple G Canelo so soon. That's really going to hurt the pay-per-view buys. I don't think at the end of the day it's going to be, taking out like 1 million pay-per-view buys out of Triple G Canelo, but I think it's going to make a sizable difference where it's really going to negatively impact the buy rate for that fight. And I think it's really unfortunate.
It is. And this went from, and you just said it, and you made a very great point. You went from a fight that was minimum, low end, a 1 million buy pay-per-view. And with the proper build, and you're looking at maybe 1.3, 1.4, maybe even as high as 1.5. Now you're looking at a 600,000 buy show, even though you do have the star power of Canelo Alvarez. And I think that does play a factor. And you got to look at the Mexican audience, and it's the Hispanic audience just in general, but to generalize it for the the Mexican audience. And you really can't underestimate that whatsoever. But I think it hurts it dramatically. And there's no one to blame here but Oscar De La Hoya. I don't care at the end of the day, Oscar De La Hoya could have made this fight for May the 6th. Instead, he got cute, tried to maximize his revenue, which I get in what you should do as a promoter. Make the most money you possibly can. But he overshot himself here. That fight could have been made for September the 16th. Now, it's because you wanted to be greedy and you wanted to be protective of your guy. Now you've lost a lot of money. The fight will still sell out. We'll be fine in that aspect. But now you're talking in terms of pay-per-view. You're asking the consumer. Because more than likely, this Mayweather-McGregor, let's talk HD, $100. Then Canelo Golovkin, probably 75. You're asking the fans to spend $175. Then you're talking the low end, standard definition. You're looking at 90 and 65. So you're asking fans to spend between $155 and $175, Carlos. Well, everyone's like, oh, then you can have group parties. Group parties still cost money. Oh, I can go to the bar. I can go to a bar. I can go to a sports bar, Buffalo Wild Wings. That's going to cost you money too. You have to at least eat. You have to get a meal. You just can't walk into a restaurant and say, hey, I'm going to watch the fight. You're going to drink.
Sorry, Carlo.
You're going to drink. You're going to eat. Money adds up. So you're asking the consumer to spend all this money. That's a lot of money for anybody. I don't care who it is for, except if you're Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. You're asking the consumer to spend a lot of money in a very short window. The pay-per-view market got really hurt by Mayweather Pacquiao. The UFC didn't. It took McGregor Mendez. And that was only at about an 850,000 buy show, which should have been over 1 million buy show. That even affected McGregor and Mendez when he fought Chad Mendez. It hurt the pay-per-view market. It took a little bit. It took a couple months for the pay-per-view market to get really back on its feet. I think people are really, especially in boxing. MMA did fine, but in boxing, it really hurt the buy rates for a lot of shows. So you have to think about the consumer here. And Canelo's a big star, but I don't even know if Canelo can keep it where it's at. And the promotion for De La Hoya, for Golovkin and Canelo so far has been pretty poor. I've seen no press tour. You've had 6 weeks and we have no press tour. You're worried about signing Miguel Cotto against an unknown Japanese fighter. You're worried about that nonsense. You should be focusing on this. And Cotto's getting hurt by this as well. Poor Miguel Cotto. Kind of like, what the hell was I thinking? Maybe I think that fight has to get moved. Oscar's got to realize here. Oh, yeah. I got to put this the week before, or if I'm Oscar De La Hoya, put this on August 19th. Do it. I advise you, Oscar. Do it. Do it for the sake of you. Do it for the sake of HBO. HBO's got to be pissed off right now. Oscar De La Hoya's got to be pissed off right now. Tom Loeffler and the boys at K2 got to be pissed off, but they have no one to blame for themselves for this happening. It's a shame. It's a travesty, but it all falls on the promoters. And kudos to Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor, Dana White, Leonard Ellerbe, and Steven Espinoza. They threw the middle finger, said a few, and called it a day and dropped the mic.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to discuss before we head into Ward Kovalev? Because we're now starting to run a little bit short on time.
Yeah, let's rock and roll, man. We got 10 weeks. That was a lot to get to, guys. We're sorry that it went a little long on that, but there's a lot to break down just from yesterday. So we do apologize. Actually, no, we don't. Let's continue. Ward Kovalev to let's rock and roll, baby.
So Ward Kovalev for the unified light heavyweight title. Rematch from their very, very good match from back last November. Ward made a tremendous comeback after getting knocked down early in the fight to win the fight via decision. A lot of people not happy that Ward won via decision. I certainly had Kovalev winning that first fight. I think, if I remember correctly, you said that you also had Kovalev winning that first fight. Yeah. But really, this is going to be a really, really good fight. You're going to see a grittier, more aggressive Kovalev. Because Kovalev now is thinking, I can't get cute in the second half of the fight. I need to go be aggressive. I've proven that I can already knock down Andre Ward. Now I want to knock him out. And Kovalev, in the build-up to this fight, he has been really, I want to really hurt this guy. And recently he was saying that I'm going to end Andre Ward's career. I don't know if he really means it or that just for show. I'm thinking that's more to draw people in to buy the pay-per-view, because the first show didn't really do that. A lot of good pay-per-view numbers. And the promotion for this fight has also been equally as piss poor. But right now, I see Kovalev winning this fight via maybe 10th round stoppage. I think Ward to have to make another. He's gonna have to fight throughout all 12 rounds like he did in the last 5, 6, 7 rounds on that first fight, because Kovalev is gonna go hyper aggressive in this fight, especially early on. I think Kovalev's going to go for the early knockout.
He's angry. And we got some stuff with Sergey Kovalev that's going to be coming out today and tomorrow from my chat with the former unified light heavyweight champion. He's pretty pissed. He knows he feels he got robbed. The majority of the boxing fans felt he got robbed. A lot of pundits, the overall consensus is he got robbed. We have to remember it was a very close fight. And I'm gonna rewatch it today. And I just haven't had time to rewatch the first fight yet. HBO sent it to to media, and I'm gonna rewatch it today just to kind of. But my first recollection, and I've watched it one other time since then. I watched it about a month ago, and I still thought Kovalev won the fight. It's a very close fight. These are the two best light heavyweights in the world, two of the top 5 pound fighters in the world today. I remember thinking about the fight and listening to Kovalev talk about it and listening to other, seeing some articles this week and being on the conference call last week. He was tired. If you look at rounds 7, if you look from round 6 on, you could see how tired he got. And conditioning played a factor. He's changed his conditioning coach. He sparred less rounds for this fight just to have more energy. He altered some of his training methods. He kept a lot of things the same, but he did spar less. He changed a couple different. He was training Carlos like he was having like 2-3 hours. He was having like 3-hour sparring sessions. It's too much. You don't need to go more than about 90 minutes, really. No, he's done a lot less of that. He says he's ready. He says you will see him for a full 12 rounds if it has to go a full 12 rounds. The promotion has been awful. I don't know how to put it more mildly. And this is all because of Rock Nation. Rock Nation's the lead promoter for this fight. They've handled all the media. And as you can see, it's been pretty poor. And a fight of this magnitude should not be piss poor. I reached out on multiple occasions to interview Andre Ward. I didn't get a peep, so I went to HBO. They said they'd get back to me, and they said he wasn't doing no interviews except for his media day. So you have a fighter, and we've complained about this. A fighter who complains he's getting no love and attention. Not all the media lives in Oakland, California, or the West Coast. There's a lot of media in the Midwest. There's a lot of media on the East Coast. There is 3 other parts of the country. And he, once again, for as great as he is, he's great. 2004 Olympic gold medalist. 31-0. Does nothing wrong. Doesn't go to strip clubs. Doesn't flaunt his money. He's a good family man. He's great in the ring. But he doesn't sell himself for shit. And that's the problem. I know the casual fan knows jack and nothing about Andre Ward. That should be the job of Ward, should be job of his team, and Rock Nation. They've done a pissant job. The excuse was, we had the Alabama, we had a lot of college football, UFC, da-da-da-da-da. There's nothing on Saturday night. The floor is theirs, and they screwed it up. Main events, Kovalev's promoter reached out to me, said, hey, would you want to interview Sergey? Absolutely. I have a good relationship with Sergey, and it was a great chat. But they're willing to promote. He wasn't. So it is, on that end, it's going to suck. They're lucky to crack 200,000. And it's not because of a lack of effort from Sergey Kovalev. Then you have the face-off situation where he didn't show up to Kovalev showed up. And everyone's like, well, he didn't show up to the pay-per-view. He had permission to not be at the Canelo Chavez fight. Andre Ward knew that, and Andre Ward still acted like a punk and acted like a petulant child and decided, you know what? Screw this. I'm leaving. HBO put a lot of money into that face-off show. No one realizes how they spent up over, that was about $3.25, I think it was about $500,000. And they had to piss it away because Andre Ward had to act like a child when Kovalev showed up on Sunday morning instead of Saturday evening. So the fight's great. It's going to be awesome. I think Kovalev gets it done. I think the conditioning, I think, will not be a factor in this fight. Andre Ward's going to have to fight. If he's going to win, he's got to fight the whole fight like he did the last half of the fight. If he doesn't do that, and if he thinks Kovalev is not going to be prepared and not in condition, not in shape, it's going to be an early night for Andre Ward. I think Kovalev gets it done this time. I think it goes to a decision, and I don't think the decision's going to be as close as it was last time around.
All right, so I say 10th round stoppage. You say unanimous. I'm going to guess you're saying unanimous. Yeah, unanimous decision.
Uh-oh, what happened? Carlos, what did you do? Man, see, that's how you don't let him do that. He was trying to get cute. It happens, ladies and gentlemen. But no, in terms of the buy rate, and we were talking about 200,000, I want to say I'm leaning more towards like the 250, just because there is nothing going on Saturday night. There's really nothing going on. MLB, NBA's done, NHL's done, WWE shows the following day. The UFC card with Holly Holm and Betty Correia is on in the morning, and Holly Holm is a draw. So I don't think they're really going to be hurt too much by that. So I think they're in really, really good shape here. So I think a win is 250. I think anything what they did last time, I think it was about 160,000 buys. I think that's a massive failure. So we'll definitely see what happens coming up on Saturday night from the Mandalay Bay Event Center in Las Vegas. Andre Ward defends the WBO, the WBA, and the IBF light heavyweight titles against the former unified champion, Sergey Kovalev. But, well,
yeah,
and what, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am there. My mistake. I accidentally yanked my computer onto the floor, and that's what happened. But yeah, I mean, I managed to get the sort of the tail end of it, and yeah, you're right. You're right. I think this fight really won't be pay-per-view like it was the first time around. But yeah, it's still going to be a really good fight. It's still going to be a really good fight.
It's just a shame the promotion sucked. And that's all on Rock Nation. And, you know, I think it's going to make a lot more people not want to work with them. But that's what I think also Andre Ward likes them. It's kind of like a weird thing. But let's hope that, you know, we get a good fight. I can't say this doing gangbuster numbers, and I think that's unfortunate. This is a fight. This should be a 400, 500 buy pay-per-view. It really should be. Two great boxers like this. They both have great stories. And if you can't sell the two top 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world today, something is wrong with you. And Jay-Z's a great promoter. Rock Nation does a great job in the music scene. Just with sports, they really have seen the struggle, and I think that's unfortunate.
But you know what? Their Rock Nation sports promotions may suck, but you know whose promotion doesn't suck? Ours. Go to Fightful.com for the latest in Mayweather McGregor. Ward Kovalev are going to have a lot of coverage on that fight happening this Saturday. You can follow me on Twitter at Toro36. You can follow Steven at Muehlhausen MMA. That's SMUEHLHAUSEN MMA.
Hey, Sean Ross said, listen to how Carlos Toro just did that, amigo. Come on. I'm a little disappointed. I've been on the team for a year now. You shouldn't have to Google my name, buddy. But no, LOL. Just kidding. No, get it right, man. Come on. My last name isn't that hard. And don't forget iTunes, Stitcher, and all that fun stuff.
Sub on the podcast page. Go to Fightful.com. Check out Fightful online at Fightful Online, at Fightful MMA, at Fightful Wrestle for the latest in MMA, pro wrestling, and boxing coverage. For the Fightful Boxing Podcast, Toro and Steven Muehlhausen signing out.